Am I the a-hole for leaving before my sister's wedding ceremony started and leaving someone else in charge of my responsibility? My female sister got married on Friday. She and I are twins, so we are very close and best friends. She is child-free while I have 2 kids, 3 male and 1 male. Obviously, she loves her nephews. She never mistreated them, but she is not a person who would accept being a babysitter for a day. She has never offered to help with anything, though it's her choice and I respect it. Not surprisingly, her marriage was child-free even for the family. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and I accepted. I was responsible for a few things at a ceremony and party. Nothing complex, but I asked another bridesmaid for help, so she was also on top of everything. My children stayed with my in-laws while my husband and I went to the wedding. About 10 minutes before everything started, I was there for 2 hours. My in-laws called saying that my youngest hit his head while playing with my oldest, and that they were taking him to the hospital. I despaired. Even though they said he was conscious, my heart was not at peace, nor my husband's, so we decided to go to the hospital. I talked to the bridesmaid and explained everything I had to do. She accepted, and when it was time to talk to my sister, she had a meltdown saying that I couldn't go at the most important moment in her life and asked if I was choosing him instead of her. I got really irritated and said, "Yes, I choose my son in the hospital." I left with her cursing me. My son is fine, but he got 2 stitches, without any internal trauma after they did exams. But we only left the hospital the other day because they preferred to put him under observation because he's very young. I preferred to stay away from my cell phone just like my husband. And when I got home, got several calls from different people, and I answered when I saw my sisters. She asked before how my son was, and when she learned that it was a minor injury, she started screaming saying that I abandoned her at the most important moment in her life, that she was without a family in her own marriage, no parents and grandparents, that I left my responsibilities to a person who did everything wrong and caused an embarrassment. And to make matters worse, I didn't even want to show up since my husband could stay in the hospital while I would at least share this moment with her. She called me several names, until my husband took the cell phone out of my hand and told her to get lost. I really could have at least gone to the party, but I wasn't going to make it knowing my baby's in the hospital. I can't help but feel bad for my sister. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. This is one of those inevitable hurt feelings that aren't really anyone's fault situations. You had no choice but to go to your son's side, as a head trauma can be really scary, especially when it's a child. Your sister is entitled to her hurt feelings about not having family on her wedding day, but she's overreacting and taking it out on you when you couldn't help it. Not the a-hole, and you're right. Your son's health and wellness are more important than your sister's feelings. Hard disagree. This is 100% the bridezilla's fault. I can't fathom how anyone with the slightest bit of compassion would fault a parent for wanting to see that their child is safe after a potentially serious accident. Not the a-hole. She started screaming saying that I abandoned her. She'd rather have you leave your child abandoned to stay with this grown woman? She's the a-hole. To quote my boss literally 3 hours ago, "If your family had a problem and you weren't distracted by it, I'd think less of you." This was part of him saying that he'd rather we just tell him if we have a problem than try to internalize it or go to someone else in the team, because if he doesn't know, he can't give us any support. This. Also, I guess I'm the only person who doesn't see stitches and a concussion as a minor injury. I mean, it could have been life-threatening. Not the a-hole. Your sister needs to chill. Yes, it ended up being a minor injury, but it could have been worse. Always better to be safe than sorry. She sounds a bit like a bridezilla. Her first concern, earlier in the post when you left the wedding, was that you'd abandoned her and not whether your child was okay. I get that her day is important, but she's showing you where her priorities lie. Minor injuries do not require stitches, nor do they require being kept at a hospital for observation. Minor in the sister's eyes. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I won't cuddle my infertile sister anymore? My sister Julie has tried to have a baby for 5 years. She had a miscarriage 2 years ago, and outside that, has been unable to get pregnant. My heart hurts for her. However, one thing I don't agree with is how my family has handled it. We're not allowed to talk about babies around Julie. Any kids younger than 3 can't come to family events that she'll attend. She won't attend baby showers, baptisms, etc. The last one I understand, but the rest feels overkill. I got pregnant last year. I told Julie first, and she reiterated her boundaries. I said I understood. The first hurdle came with my baby shower. My mother-in-law was throwing it, and I didn't expect Julie to come. Then my mom told me I shouldn't have one, period, out of respect. I said that was ridiculous. She didn't have to come, so what did it matter? Only 3 people from my side of the family came to the shower. When my son was born, I posted a birth announcement on Facebook, and my parents lectured me for this and said it was going to hurt Julie. I said she could just block or mute me. They said I should make the effort. Julie echoed that if I cared, I'd stop. I ended up blocking her just to save drama. My aunt's 70th birthday party's next week. My husband and I plan to go, bringing our son. Julie called and asked if we were going. She then asked for me to get a sitter for our son. I said no. She doesn't want to miss the party, but my aunt is one of the few people who agree that Julie's boundaries aren't fair and wants my son there as she doesn't get to see him often. Julie got upset and started crying, saying that I was unfair. I finally snapped and asked what would happen when she got pregnant. Would we all be expected to shower her with the love and attention she's refused to give other people's kids? Will her baby be allowed to attend events? She said that was different. I said no, I'm not cuddling her anymore. My son exists, his family, and he's coming. She can decide if she wants to or not. My parents yelled at me for being mean to Julie. They offered to pay for a sitter, but I said no. It's not even her house. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister is taking this way too far. Your point about her possible child is totally valid. I doubt she's doing this with friends and coworkers. She does it with friends, but she doesn't have many to begin with. They also don't have kids, so it's easier. Unsure about work. Gee, wonder why she doesn't have many friends. Yep, I have a toddler and one on the way. And if I made her acquaintance and she said she couldn't deal with kids, I wouldn't bother to know her any further. I won't pretend my kids don't exist until they are older just to not trigger her. I say all this as someone who had a full-term stillbirth from a cord knot after years of trying to have a child. I couldn't deal with seeing babies and young children for a while. I let my Facebook friends know that I was staying friends with them, but for my friends who had young kids or babies, I was temporarily unfollowing until I was in a healthier place mentally. I shopped early in the day at the grocery when many parents didn't take their kids out, and my husband and I stayed home a lot. I dealt with our infertility and got therapy after our loss. It was hard seeing new babies for a while, but gradually, seeing a little one would make me smile a little rather than want to cry. And when my rainbow baby was born, I felt like I could smile again without feeling guilt for being happy. The sister desperately needs some counseling and mental health help. I sympathize with her. I really do. Babies made me sad for a long time, but you can't punish others for something like having children. Not the whole. Good Lord. Wow. She's trying to cut off all family event-related contact for your side of the family? She needs therapy badly. That's just so unfair to you and your child and the other relatives who do want to see the baby. Tell your parents that if they want to see their grandson, they need to start treating him like a human being and part of the family, not a weapon pointed at your sister. Not the whole. You made some very good points to your sister, and I'm not surprised with what she said. Sunshine and rainbows if she has a kid, but for anyone else, your kids can't come or aren't allowed because it will upset me. It's total BS, and your parents are encouraging it. My wife and I had 2 miscarriages. Of course it's bad, but we had to move on. Your sister just doesn't want to. Yes, she needs therapy badly. It's as if her identity has now been wrapped up in her childlessness, as if she uses her family's pity and empathy to gain special attention. This is way, way beyond normal or healthy. Her parents are furthering the problem by continuing to indulge this woe is me situation and have literally made Julie's infertility more a part of their lives than their own living grandchild. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she should have thought before having kids if she wanted more freedom? My friend Isla, 26 female, and I, 26 female, have known each other since middle school. We applied to the same college and got in. However, Isla got pregnant after a few months and decided to drop out. She's had 3 more accidental pregnancies and is now a stay-at-home mother of 4. I was telling her the other day that I'm going to travel to Europe, and if all goes well, I will be moving there. She got really annoyed with me and told me that it must be nice to have all the freedom and no responsibilities because I don't have kids. Like, hello, I work. I'm doing my PhD. It's not like I'm just sitting on my butt. This is not the first time she took jabs at me for that. but it was the first time she was this rude. I told her that if she wanted to be free and go off whenever and wherever she wanted, she should have used protection and thought before having kids. Our conversation was at my house and her kids weren't there. She got really mad and left, slamming the door on her way out. She hasn't replied to my messages, but she started telling everyone what an awful person I am. Am I the a-hole for snapping at her? Now for the top comments. 4 accidental pregnancies? At some point, that's not an accident. That's choosing to let pregnancies happen. I think you've just grown too far apart. She's jealous, but that's on her. She chose her life, and you chose yours. 4 kids didn't just happen to her without her input. Not the a-hole, and maybe it's best if you let the friendship fizzle out. Once is accidental. Twice is coincidence. Thrice is enemy action. 4 is, I don't know, alcoholism, probably. Not the a-hole. Yes, I think it's time to end that friendship chapter. My best friend from childhood has her PhD and also travels a lot and lives abroad. I chose to marry my husband. With my 2 step kids, I help raise with primary custody and our toddler. I'm happy for her, not jealous. I chose my path, and while it's not always easy and can be very thankless, I enjoy my husband and kids, most days. She should enjoy travel while she's young instead of older, and she has worked hard for it. I'm sure 4 kids are tough. My 3 can make me feel like I'm losing it on a daily basis. But it was a choice, accidental or not. There was the risk by having intimacy and keeping the babies, as heartless as that sounds. Maybe she didn't know how demanding and draining it could be. Heck, I didn't. But she should celebrate her friend. A friend has different struggles, and she truly has worked herself off to get her PhD, which I doubt I could do. Not stay holopy. Everyone has a breaking point, and she was being rude for too long. Not day hall. I'm sorry, but there is no such thing as 4 accidental pregnancies, unless she is one of the most fertile people on the planet. 1, sure. Get on long-term birth control, etc. afterwards and also use rubbers. But 4? I'm sorry, no. Her having 4 kids to be responsible for is not your burden to carry. If she is resentful for her life, that's on her, not you. Good for you for sticking up for yourself. If she's going to be a witch because you don't have children, then maybe it's time to let this friendship fade. Thank you. I'm shocked though you haven't received replies from people telling you they had an IUD, were taking the pill and used a rubber and still got pregnant. Like, no girl, you didn't. I do know someone who's hyper-fertile. She got her tubes tied. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for picking the same name for my baby as my brother-in-law's unborn baby? My 31 female husband, 33 male, and his brother, 36 male aren't super close, but we all get along well. My brother-in-law is pretty nice overall, but he does seem to be a bit jealous of my husband and just everything we have. But my husband told me that it's always been like this, so it's not really a big deal. I'm currently pregnant with a baby girl, our first baby, and we've been discussing possible names. There's one that we're pretty sure of. It's not super out there, but I think pretty unique nowadays, and I really like it. The issue is, this is the name that brother-in-law and his girlfriend had picked out for their baby 3 years ago. If it was a girl because they didn't know yet, but the baby unfortunately died. His girlfriend chose the name for her favorite ballet, and I remember she would say that if she ever had a daughter, she'd name her that. We were at a family event over the weekend, and I mentioned that we had the name in mind. Brother-in-law looked kind of surprised and said that was the name they'd picked for their daughter. My husband said that we know, but we just thought it was a really nice name. Brother-in-law started saying if we could reconsider and that there are other names, and this one's really special to him. I said that we decided on the name, and he actually didn't even know if his baby was going to be a girl or a boy. He was upset and kept saying that we should reconsider. I got a little mad and told him that he doesn't own the name, and they should be hoping for a healthy baby rather than worry about names. Brother-in-law dropped it after that, but my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, told me and my husband that we don't care and we're intentionally hurting him. You're the a-hole. No, they don't own the name. That doesn't mean they're wrong that you should reconsider when you've clearly known for years that it's special to them. Especially when the mere fact you're having this argument shoots a gaping hole in your pretty unique reason for picking it, and you don't seem to have anything specially meaningful to counter that with. Okay, maybe I should have been clearer in my post. Sometimes when me and brother-in-law's girlfriend would chat, we just randomly go on the topic of wedding planning, baby names, etc. She mentioned that there's this name she likes, and if she ever had a daughter, she'd probably name her that. She had one for a son too. In fact, we didn't even know she was pregnant until after she died. I'm sorry, are you saying your brother's girlfriend died while pregnant? Edit, confirmed by the OP. So not only is she stealing the name of a dead baby, she's stealing it from a dead woman. Well, that obviously makes it okay then. Yikes on a bike. Also, this made me wince. I got a little mad and told him that he doesn't own the name and they should be hoping for a healthy baby rather than worry about names. But the most insensitive thing she could have chosen to say, and I don't think for a second she didn't know how this sounds. OP, take your own advice. Given that you know someone whose baby died, which would have been your husband's and so your niece or nephew, put your brain back in your skull and engage it. I thought the same thing. The subtext is so mean, like, make sure this one doesn't die like your last one. Oh yes, there's a heck of a lot of subtext here. Well, the baby died, so I get dibs on the name now since you don't have a living baby and I do. So maybe if you are lucky someday you can be like me and have a baby that lives. Too bad for you. Better luck next time. Very mean girls type of vibe. Maybe this is the kind of person who would steal someone else's boyfriend and then be like, well, if you were more like me, you'd be able to keep your man. How about you work on you instead of being mad at me and maybe next time you'll have a chance. Ta-ta. Info. Are you going to accept you're the a-hole or were you just hoping for validation because you're going to do it anyways? Because you'd be a massive a-hole if you used the name. Edit. Oh dear lord. Turns out the girlfriend died with a baby too. Oh my god, this is so much worse than I originally thought. The word vile doesn't even begin to describe it. Shame on you. I literally need to take a breather because I am so disgusted on your brother-in-law's behalf. Shame on you. Frankly, it's concerning that someone with that level of apathy is going to be a mother. That poor child. To have a mother like this. It's worse than that. The kid has a father like this too. Not just this mother, but a father who is happy to name his kid the name of his brother's deceased baby. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my inheritance with my cousins? So I'm 31 female. My mom passed away when I was 4. She was 26 and dad has never been in the picture, so after my mom's death, her twin brother, my uncle Jack, became my legal guardian. He passed away suddenly 2 months ago. My grandparents started a watchmaking company over 50 years ago. They ran it for over 40, retired a decade ago, and my uncle took over. When I went to live with my uncle, he just started working for the company full-time after graduating college. And instead of having a babysitter, he would take me to work if I was not in school. My uncle met Melissa when I was 10. She was very nice to me. They got married when I was 12 and had their first child a few months later. When my cousin Mark, 20, was born, things changed. She would stop packing my lunch and other stuff. I know that she's not my mom, but before, she would just look at me with a smile. But after, she would barely acknowledge my existence. They had 2 more sons. Anyways, I worked there part-time as a teen, helping around, and Uncle taught me a few things. Uncle took over the company in 2012. My grandparents gave it to him, and he took it from 145 employees to almost 1,000 in 10 years. Even started a watchmaking school. I went to college, then Uncle hired me full-time as a designer. Time went on. Mark would work for like 4 hours a week and get a full week's pay, and I've heard all my cousins and my aunt talk about how watchmaking is stupid. And that is too much for something that only tells you the time. This comment is particularly ignorant, as we don't make only watches anymore, and I thought Mark paid just enough attention to know that. But it seems I was wrong, so it never seemed like they were interested in the company. Back to now. After my uncle's funeral, my aunt informed me that they were selling the company, as it's useless to them, but they were willing to let me make an offer first. I was heartbroken. I just lost my uncle and was probably going to lose my job because there was no way I could get the money. Then last week, my uncle's will was read. All the money was divided in equal parts. Among me, my cousins, and my aunt. She got as part of the house and I got the company. 100% of the company. They were furious. I now have some friends saying it's their right to be upset for not getting something they understood they were getting. Extended family calling me a thief because it was their father's company. And my cousins texting me things like, just give it to us. we're contesting the will, meeting our lawyer tomorrow, or we're going to destroy you for what you're doing. My grandparents are on my side, but I just feel like I'm being harassed by all these people. Edit? I can't fire Mark right now. If I do, it would be a huge risk. He has flexible hours written on his contract, and he's salaried. And with all this drama, I am getting a lawyer to deal with us. And I don't talk to my aunt and my 2 oldest cousins. The youngest is 11. I just open their messages to take screenshot. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They're just angry their payday was ruined. Your uncle clearly wanted his company to stay in the family. That's why he gave it to you. This is it. It's her uncle's company. No, it's a family company. Opie's grandparents were the uncle's parents. Opie literally is in the same tier of descendants as any of the cousins. The difference is, she'll keep it in the family. Opie, you're not the a-hole. Ignore the sharks. Good for the uncle for leaving his/the family legacy to someone based on merit, not blood, aka direct descendant. This is usually how companies go bankrupt after the founder passed. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your grandparents would have divided the company with your mom and uncle. It's at least 50% yours. You have added equity by working there, and they have all been compensated fairly with cash and housing. Sadly, you should let your cousin go if he's just there for the paycheck and not working. This is what your uncle wanted, honoring him by doing exactly what it says in the will. Your cousins will continue to be furious. They may even sue, but continue to honor your uncle even if you have to go to court. Next story. Am I the a-hole for selling my portion of the house because my sister made my wife watch her daughters? I, 28 male, and my sister, 45, co-own a house together. It was a duplex, but we ripped out the wall in the living room years ago, so now it's a one big house. She has 2 girls. My wife and I have 2 boys and 1 on the way. It's a giant house, and there's still 3 extra bedrooms left over. My sister recently has been pretty much conning my wife into taking her daughters with her everywhere. She does this very so often, honestly. She takes needing a break to the extreme, and it's always when the warm weather hits. Because my sister is really overweight, gets overheated, and can't handle her children during these times. So anyways, she's been asking my wife pretty much daily to take the girls with her every single place she goes. My wife ends up feeling cornered as she doesn't like confrontation and just gives in. And what really angered me was that this even bled into my children's first ever concert. We got tickets well in advance, and unfortunately, I ended up breaking my hip and couldn't go. So there was a ticket left over. I was destroyed over not being able to go. I was in the hospital, but my wife decided to still bring the boys. Then she calls when they got there, and I find out that my sister basically told my wife how unfair it was that there was an extra ticket that her oldest daughter could use, and she didn't even ask to bring her. Needless to say, the kid ended up being taken to the concert. And by the time my wife got to the concert and called me, she was crying and completely overwhelmed and didn't even enjoy herself. My niece has ADHD and is one hell of a handful, so there was no relaxing. I got home 2 days ago and went up one side of my sister and down the other. Told her that she had to take our kids this weekend so my wife could go and relax after being conned into parenting 2 extra kids for so long and not getting a single stroke of a second to herself. My sister got angry, saying my wife could have just said no. But my sister never takes no for an answer, so this response was truly manipulative. So in turn, I told her I'm selling my portion of the house, which means she would have to sell or convert back to duplex, which they don't have the money for, because I don't want to be around her BS anymore. She's been begging and crying to us for 2 days, trying to take our kids and kissing our butts. This home has been in our family for 6 to 8 generations, so my sister doesn't want to sell. But I have to stick to this because I don't trust her. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, well, I can appreciate people saying that this is an open-ended threat on my end and that I would be responsible for the cost of converting back to a duplex. Please understand that I've already spoken to a few lawyers about this, as I thought the same thing. And no, it's not on me financially to do this because of how the co-ownership deed is written. I'm not sure the in-depth legalities, but I did speak on behalf of this issue profusely because I too thought it would be my obligation to rebuild a duplex with my intention to sell. But legally, it is not on me for whatever reason. Not the a-hole. You were all insane people for tearing down that wall in the first place, lol. Exactly. Good walls make good neighbors. Not the a-hole. I don't think a wall would stop that sister. Sister is super entitled. The wall wouldn't have even slowed her down. She'd have just dumped an OP and his family. Not the a-hole. What your sister has been doing to your wife is pretty scummy. Though I'm honestly surprised that you let it get to the point where you were so fed up you decided to sell the house. Either way, she needs to take responsibility for her own children and not have the ability to corner your wife into doing it for her. Also, if the home has been in the family for generations, the former duplex may not meet the zoning codes for lot size and zone. Legally not conforming uses are permitted unless they have been abandoned for a year in most jurisdictions. It's standard language in local zoning codes, so it may not be possible to convert it from a one-family back to a duplex. From my understanding, my sister didn't take the proper measures to convert to a duplex to begin with. I was 16 when the wall was ripped out, so I'm unsure how that will affect things long-term either. I haven't gotten that in-depth with the lawyers. Next story. Am I the a-hole for bringing up the fact my brother hasn't had a steady job since he graduated 3 years ago? Today we had a little barbecue for Memorial Day at my mom's house, and my brother, who's 21, was noticeably tired and not really speaking unless spoken to. But it's kind of always been like that. It was enough to be noticeably worse today though, so I asked him how he was doing. And he said he's fine and just had a long night with his friends and PlayStation. I told him he should have probably planned to go to sleep early so he'd have energy for the barbecue today, and he sarcastically responded that he couldn't help it. I regret my response to this, but I said, maybe you'd have more energy if you had a job. His demeanor quickly shifted, and he was pretty insulted, but it's been a recurring argument between us that he needs to get off his butt and help our mom with rent, but for some reason he just doesn't. No matter how hard we poke and pet him, he won't budge. He's not in college, and the only money he makes is when he goes logging with my dad, which isn't really a job and only happens a few times a month. Eventually, he started crying and ran to his room. My mom was angry with me for ruining the barbecue, which I didn't expect to happen, and told me I should probably leave. I'm a 23 female and I've had a job ever since high school, and I'm in college currently. I moved out when I was 19 and never looked back. But for some reason, my mom isn't as strict with my brother as she was with me. She occasionally sends him links to places that are hiring, and that's it. Honestly, he's got a heart of gold and lots of friends and family who adore him. I just wished he'd get a job to help my overworked mom out. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments before the mini update. But I said, maybe you'd have more energy if you had a job. This right here is a cheap shot and doesn't even make sense. Not to mention a drama starter. Can't blame your mom for asking you to leave. You tout that you've had a job since high school, go to school currently and live on your own. Yet here you are starting unnecessary childish drama at a family barbecue. You're the a-hole. You are taking a problem that has nothing to do with you and making it your problem. Comments like that are not going to help him. He's an adult. His job situation is his to deal with. And if he's not paying rent to your mom, that's up to your mom to sort out. I also think you are not accounting for details you may be unaware of here, like if he may be dealing with some mental health issues or other problems in his life. It sounds like resentment from the unequal treatment between Opie and her brother. That's what I was thinking. There's some golden child / scapegoat energy here, but I give her a soft Yorty a-hole because she did start drama at a family event. In your comments, you say that your brother has anxiety, depression, is on meds, and is in therapy. Clearly, he is struggling, probably more than you know, and trying to manage life the best he can as a 21-year-old. I'm not sure why you feel the need to insert yourself into any of this, to be honest. Seems kind of like you enjoy comparing yourself to him and trying to make him feel beneath you. The fact that you chose to hound him about this, something that really is none of your business, in front of others was totally out of line. You're the a-hole. You owe your brother an apology. He needs encouragement and support, not condescending lectures and scolding. The title says graduated 3 years ago, so remember that this is a kid whose final high school years were COVID years. I know this seems like an excuse, but we're really seeing serious mental health issues and an almost adult version of a newborn's failure to thrive by some of those students. His high school education and social development were very different than what Opie would have experienced. He needs help and support to move on, not additional guilt. Now for the mini update. I apologized earlier today and bought him lunch. We're also gonna try family therapy and see how it goes. He also accepted my offer of trying to help him get a job at my place of work. He also told me he was thinking about upping his meds in the last few days, and yesterday's events was the straw that broke the camel's back. Everything seems to be dandy now, but I may make a post in the future if he doesn't keep his word about keeping a job at my place of work. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to live with my father over my mother despite his cheating? I, 19 female, grew up with a very one-sided family dynamic. I have a great relationship with my father, and we have always gotten along with each other. He was way more present in my upbringing than my mother, and I overall just prefer being with him. He was always there for me and never prioritized his job over the family. My mother, on the other hand, was more focused on her work than being a part of my life, and that has really drawn a wedge between us. I don't hate my mom, but I don't have nearly as close of a connection with her as I have with my father. Her work was always prioritized over my father and I, and it felt like my parents weren't even married. So, my mother recently found out that my father has been having an affair with a coworker of his for the past 2 months. I had no idea about this, so this definitely came as a shock to me. They're getting a divorce, and my mother is planning on moving out of our house soon. And my mother told me that I should start packing my stuff so that we can move out as soon as she can sign a lease in an apartment. But to be honest, I don't really want to move out with her, and I'd much rather stay with my father. I know what he did was terrible, but I still wouldn't really feel at home or comfortable living alone with my mom. I know that if I live with my father, he'll continue to support and take care of me like he has been doing, and like my mother. When I told my mother that I wanted to live with my father, she had a mental breakdown. She started telling me that her father broke up our family, and that he broke her, and that me choosing him over her is a massive betrayal from me towards her. My mother got really emotional, and I felt bad about this all. Am I the a-hole? If the dad was earning less than your mother in this time period, it makes sense that your mother was more career-focused to manage the house expenses. While this doesn't mean the family can be neglected, it also hints that maybe your father was having affairs for a long time and chose to remain distant from the mother, which further drove her away to focus on work. He was only caught this time. No reason to think he wasn't cheating before. Do you know for sure that your mom wasn't significantly earning more, or rather that your father brought home lesser income? During your childhood, not current situation. My father earned more than my mother and took care of the majority of the bills at home. He was a hard worker, but always made sure that he had time for the family and never let his career come between us. And because my father did so much for the family, my mother was rarely present and was always focused on her career and put us on the back burner, which made us feel neglected. We always expressed to her how we felt, but she never listened. Do you feel him cheating on your mom was justified then? It just sounds like you're okay with everything that happened. Have you ever had a proper sit-down with your mom about everything that happened? Has your father apologized or showed remorse at all? Was he willing to work through this? Don't get me wrong. I think what my dad did was completely wrong and terrible. He should have been more upfront about all of this and opted for separation/divorce before getting involved with another woman. I'm really not sure what has happened between my parents specifically, but my father made it clear that my mother and him getting a divorce changes nothing about his relationship with me. Not a-hole. Your father did not cheat on you. And while affair/cheating can be very hurtful and disruptive for a family dynamic, infidelity is never a simple thing. While the act itself seems simple, what brought him to that act can be anything from drunken impulse to years of neglect, distance, and loneliness. What I try to say is, you currently have a hurt, angry mother and a defensive, guilty father. Neither one of them will give you a precise and correct testimony about what happened. Choose your own path. Huh? Father chose instead of having a divorce. Doesn't matter if it was neglect. He is an adult man who could divorce his wife anytime he wanted, but instead choose to break his wedding vows. To me, it seems like a character flaw. That viewpoint doesn't really help Opie make the decision, and as the commenter above you pointed out, nobody has the full picture of what has happened in the parents' marriage, not even Opie.